So, this is Mike, I'm Ethan, and this is Smash TV, and today we're going to give you our top 10 Super Nintendo games.
In order to keep the list interesting, we're going to leave off the Nintendo exclusive titles so our list doesn't look the same as everyone else's. As well as that, we're also going to limit the games to one per franchise.
Yeah, so relax, grab a drink, and take a step back in time with us.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh yeah.
Cheers.
While all the other games on this list made it because of my affection for them as a young fella, Mega Man 7 is the one I only started playing recently. For me, it was just the fact that it was not the 8-bit version of the Blue Bomber that I knew and loved and was expecting more Mega Man X than Mega Man. But after playing through it once upon a recommendation, I loved it. The gameplay mechanics are similar to the original series, so you'll jump, shoot and slide your way through an introduction level, followed by 8 new robot masters that our old mate Dr. Wily will throw at you to slow you down. Obviously the game has had a major graphics overhaul since the 8-bit era, which works really well, although the timing of your actions will need to be altered a little bit to account for new animation frames if you're an experienced Mega Man player. It's fair to say that the difficulty level is lowered from the 8-bit titles, again mainly in part to the animations causing the game to feel a little slower than what you're used to, and there isn't as many near pixel perfect jumps needed to complete a level. For this reason, it's a great game to play for beginners, although the last battle with Dr. Wily will be sure to test your skills and sanity.
Alien 3 is a side-scrolling shooter released in 1993 by LJN and Probe Software. Loosely based on the movie of the same name, you take control of Ripley after her escape pod crashes into the sea on a prison planet, and of course it doesn't take long to notice that the aliens have come along for the ride and established a new colony. The game controls are a little more complex than most shooters, with a number of tools at your disposal for completing a mission in each stage. The controls do feel responsive though, and you won't die cheaply at the hands of buggy controls. Graphics wise, the game looks great and uses the expanded colour palette of the Super Nintendo to portray sprites and environments with an elevated sense of realism, which definitely helps to set the gloomy atmosphere and remind the player that you're essentially on your own in the fight against the aliens. The soundtrack helps out here too, with an atmospheric score and some great sound effects for your arsenal. The alien screams are quite impressive as well. All in all, while Alien 3 isn't groundbreaking, it gave me many hours of fun when I was a youngin'.
Super Street Fighter 2 is the fourth installment of the Street Fighter 2 series, and it's a belter. The reason I've chosen this one over the previous releases of the game was due to the expanded roster, and it's also the game I spent the most time playing. The game introduces 4 new characters in Cammy, T-Hawk, DJ and Fei Long, each with their own distinctive fighting style. Combined with all your favourites from the previous games, the roster is sized at a healthy 16 fighters, making battles all the more interesting. The beauty of the Street Fighter series is that no character feels particularly overpowered against another if both players are of a similar experience level. Special moves for all the original characters remain the same for the most part, although Ryu and Ken have been given new fire-based Hadoukens and Dragon Punches respectively, as well as a few more subtle changes thrown in for other characters. The moves are easy to execute for the most part, so you'll be stringing combos together in no time. All in all, Super Street Fighter 2 is a standout fighter that will appeal to both novice and experienced players alike, and you'll have no better feeling than when you knock out your mates and watch them hit the turf in slow motion after landing that final blow.
From LucasArts and Factor 5 comes Super Star Wars. The game was released in 1992 and was met with very positive reviews. Based on the events of the first film, the game follows the storyline and really gives the player the feeling of being a part of the movie, with recognisable sprites and an all too familiar soundtrack. The core gameplay is a shining example of how a platformer should play, with some additional sequences to break up the action such as the land speeder scene and the trench run on the Death Star, which makes great use of the Mode 7 graphics to marvel at while you're wasting Jawas and TIE fighters. During the game you play as Luke Skywalker initially, and later on have the option to play as Han Solo or everyone's favourite Wookiee, Chewbacca. Each character has their own weapons, but otherwise control the same as their comrades, so you never have to worry about breaking your rhythm as you tear through 15 levels of mayhem. As you progress through the game, you'll have the ability to upgrade your weapons, but don't think this will make the game easier. Super Star Wars is known for being an extremely difficult game. You'll definitely need the Force on your side if you want any chance of finishing this one.
Now I know we've covered this game on a previous list of great co-op games, but I'd never forgive myself if we did a list of great SNES games and didn't mention it. The Lost Vikings, in my opinion, is the best puzzle platformer around. You play as all three of the fellas, making use of their abilities to successfully navigate your way through 37 brain-busting levels. Our heroes are Eric the Swift, the leader of the group who is fast, can jump and knock over walls by smashing his head into them. Olaf the Stout is the enforcer and your first line of defence. He uses his shield to stop enemies from attacking his mates, as a platform for others to stand on, and to glide down from high areas without taking damage. Finally, Baljog the Fierce is the warrior, wiping enemies out with his bow from long range or with his sword for close quarters combat. The game takes advantage of the colour palette that the SNES has to offer, by throwing you into some great environments, accompanied by a chirpy soundtrack to set the mood. The gameplay is simple, but at times will have you screaming in frustration when one of your Vikings takes a hit because you neglected to defend him. Whether you're playing in 1 or 2 player mode, this is definitely an adventure that you want to be a part of.
No points for guessing why this one made the list. Mortal Kombat 2 is the first game in the series on the Super Nintendo to bring all the blood and gore that made the series famous. By now you'll already know the plot. Shang Tsung just got his arse kicked by Liu Kang and convinces Shao Kahn to spare his life by telling him that an invitation for another tournament cannot be declined if it's held in Outworld. So Shao Kahn gets his bad guys together, Raiden rounds up the heroes, and are all set to see the arena coated in blood of being fury. All of the original combatants appear in the second game, although Sonya and Kano only appear as non-playable characters and are reduced to cameo roles being chained up in Shao Kahn's arena. In addition to the original lineup, 5 playable characters make their debut, along with 5 non-playable characters, including 3 hidden ones that are only available to battle when specific gameplay conditions are met. Much more content was pumped into the game, with every character now having 2 fatalities as well as stage fatalities to go along with the newer animalities and friendship finishers, which definitely help to build the suspense when the screen goes dark and you know some heavy shit is about to go down.
From gaming powerhouse Konami comes Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 Turtles in Time. A port of the arcade hit, the game is the quintessential side-scrolling beat-em-up that really manages to get everything right. The story is very simple. Krang stole the Statue of Liberty and you need to get it back. You choose one of the 4 turtles and begin your pursuit with the Foot Clan looking to halt your progress at every step of the way. When you reach your Technodrome, Shredder sends you into a time warp where you will face his foot soldiers and generals in various historical periods. The gameplay is extremely straightforward, with only the use of the D-pad and 2 buttons. These buttons, however, can be combined for a satisfying range of alternate attacks. While it may feel a little like a button masher, you will find that you depend on having an attack strategy much more than in other beat-em-ups of the same era. The game looks amazing on the SNES and it's got a cracking soundtrack with great sound effects, which results in a pleasurable 20 to 30 minute journey through space and time, either by yourself or with a mate. If you haven't played it before, do so. There's a reason many people list it as the best beat-em-up ever made. Don't like it? Well, you're just fucking stupid.
Based on Batman the Animated Series, which is probably my favourite cartoon of all time, comes The Adventures of Batman and Robin, which was released in 1994 by former industry heavy hitters Konami. Very different to the last Batman title, Batman Forever, the game has you playing as the Cape Crusader as you traverse through 8 levels of platform and beat 'em up delight. The game follows the tried and true method of smashing your way through a level full of henchmen and puzzles before facing off with a boss at the end of the level. This is where the game really shines, bringing in the majority of the show's villains for the game. You toss them with Poison Ivy, the Penguin, Catwoman, Two-Face, Scarecrow, the Riddler, and of course the Joker. The music has been beautifully crafted to give the same sense of darkness as the animated series, and is complemented by the graphics that really fit the mood. Plenty of attention was paid to the animations in particular, which look fantastic. While the game employs a password system, you're not going to know the true meaning of tough until you beat the game on the hard difficulty with no passwords available. This offers plenty of replayability for those who want to see the real ending of the game.
Donkey Kong Country 3 Dixie Kong's Double Trouble is another entry into the legendary platforming series by Nintendo's best developer mates over at Rare. While any of the games in the series could have made my list, I've decided on DKC3 because it kinda gets shat on and it really doesn't deserve it. Apparently the reason for this is that everyone hates Kiddy Kong. Sure, he doesn't have the same level of personality as the other members of the Kong family, but with all that aside, he plays almost the same as Donkey Kong did in the first game, being the powerful character to complement the speed and manoeuvrability of his cousin Dixie. This brings a nice change to the dynamics of the game, where you'll need to think more about strategy if you've only got one Kong available, and that the stage that you're in is much more suited to your teammate that's impatiently waiting in a DK barrel. The first thing you'll notice about DKC3 is the graphics. Following on from the previous titles, the game looks stunning with many beautiful environments, ensuring that it never gets old to look at. The soundtrack is perfectly crafted as usual and helps to get the gamer emotionally invested in the action. Gameplay is the main reason for the game's success though. as you will use your team up abilities and platforming precision to battle your way to K. Rool through a challenging series of worlds, collecting bonus coins and DK coins, and some of the best boss battles of the series.
While it most definitely isn't the best port of Doom to be released, it's easily one of the most impressive ports due to the fact that it's Doom run on a Super Nintendo. Doom features 22 levels from the PC game, all the weapons we've come to know and love, and also packs in all the enemy types as well. The game even supported multiplayer if you had an X-Band modem, which is no small feat when you consider the lack of power the Super Nintendo has compared to what a PC was capable of at the time. This is where my Doom obsession first manifested. It was my first experience with Doom, as my PC at the time couldn't handle it. Despite its flaws like the slow frame rate, I still had an absolute blast fighting through hell, obliterating demons along the way. While it may not be the most optimised or smooth version of Doom, it holds a special place in my heart because it was the beginning of a lifetime's worth of demon slaying. Rip and tear.